Musicians, let's be honest with ourselves. Most of us suck at doing live streams. It's not entirely our fault. Technology isn't our main medium, and we had no time to prepare for this before pandemic, nor was anyone around to teach us. But in a good way, it's forced us to look at what we're doing well and not well as performers in general. For example, do you know how to read your audience? Do you know why some of your songs go over better with an audience than others? And now the question is, do you play to the camera or ignore the camera? My guest in this episode, John M., is probably the first musician that I know who started his own live stream show over 4 years ago. So not only is he an expert on this topic, he's also a veteran live performer and author of his own book about live performance called Performance Matters. If only we had all seen the pandemic coming, we could have gone to him for advice earlier. But nonetheless, he's got some great lessons learned to share, and the second half of this interview will get into some of the technical aspects of doing a decent live stream show, which I'm sure just about everyone listening will gain something from. So before you go blowing your next paycheck on new gear and wigs, if that's your thing, spend this next half hour with John. Let's get into it. John, how are you?
I am fine. Thank you so much, Vinay, and thanks for inviting me to do this.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I have to tell you, I think you're the first musician that I've invited on this podcast to strictly talk about music and performance, and for a couple of reasons. Yeah. I mean, I've talked to just about everybody, comedians, theater company owners, personal coaches, online psychics, but I've been waiting for, because there's so much stuff out there already for musicians, like on YouTube, but this is why I thought of you, and you'd be the perfect guest for this. You, I think, probably were the pioneer of doing live streaming. Even before pandemic, you were probably the most active person I had amongst my friends on Facebook, on social media, doing live streaming events, doing impromptu events, and you created your own regular schedule with your own kind of show. And this is probably a few years, right? A few years ago you started doing this. Am I right?
About 4.5 years, yeah.
A long time back. So I thought John is going to have something interesting to teach us all. So I want everyone to know a little bit about your background. So maybe just give a brief. Obviously, your credits are like 10 pages long, but just maybe talk about what you have been doing recently. Mention your book, of course, and other things you got going on.
Well, I am a singer-songwriter. I started writing songs and playing when I was in my early teens, and I've toured the country numerous times, and I've played with some rock and roll bands, and I've done a lot of solo acoustic stuff, and I've made 6 albums so far. The 7th one is in the works. And I've done a whole lot of house concerts. I made a movie about house concerts, but excuse me, but for the past year, like almost everybody else I know in the music business, I've been faced with doing practically nothing in the real world. The pandemic hit, and we were all told to stay home and stay 6 feet away from everybody and avoid crowds, and venues were shut down and restaurants were shut down and everything was shut down. And, but an artist needs to express his or her art. And I certainly needed to express mine. And you don't want to just, if you can possibly avoid it, you don't want to just stop, especially if it's going to go on for weeks or months, or in this case, a year so far. And so the challenge became, how do I keep going? And you are right that I started my my live stream series, my weekly show, Sunday Morning Live with John M. I started several years before the pandemic, almost by accident. I was living in LA with my girlfriend Hillary, and she knew a couple of people who were doing live streams, and she said, this is something you might consider. And at first I really rejected the idea because I'd seen a lot of poorly done live streams. And so I said, I don't want to be just another person sitting in his bedroom strumming a guitar to an iPhone. And, but she kind of pushed and prodded a little bit. And finally, reluctantly, I said, okay, I will try this. I will give this as much of a fair shot as I can. And I will try it for a month. We'll do it once a week for a month. And I'll give it my best shot. I'll do the best, make them the best performances I can in that medium, and we'll see what happens. And if anybody likes it, if it looks like it's going to go anywhere, then we'll keep doing it. And if not, I can say, okay, I tried, let's kiss that goodbye. And that was 4.5 years ago.
Right.
So it has been going strong. I've developed a pretty solid audience. Of course, it's always growing, and I'm always looking for more viewers. And not too deep into it, I started realizing that just me talking to an online audience and playing songs week after week after week was going to get old. I only have so many songs, and part of the struggle is to come up with new things to do each week, and songs to play that I haven't played in a while. And I realized that in order to keep it vibrant and interesting, I was going to have to start having guests. And for a long time, I had guests live with me on location of where I was. They would sit there next to me, and Hillary would have the camera, and we would talk to each other and sometimes play with each other. And that was great as long as it lasted. But once again, here comes the pandemic. Now I can't have guests there with me. So I went back to doing them solo for, I don't know, several months. And once again, I reluctantly said, well, okay, I'm going to have to join the parade. I'm going to have to be like all these other people that are having remote guests. And so I looked into the various technologies for doing that. Zoom is pretty low on the ladder for me. It's great for conferences, and it's great for conversations like this.
Right.
For music, it's not so great because the sound quality isn't that great. But I looked at a few things and we developed it, and so here I am. And I'm very much looking forward to. I haven't performed live on a stage in a show, with an audience sitting there in front of me for about a year. And I miss it terribly. I also haven't traveled. I haven't done any touring in about the same amount of time. Last March of last year, I had a bunch of gigs booked that all canceled. Yeah. And most of my colleagues are in the same boat. So I'm really looking forward to it coming back.
Yeah, absolutely.
But for now, I'm doing the live stream thing. And I'm kind of rambling on here, so feel free to cut me off anytime you want.
Well,
but
no, I don't feel you're rambling at all. In fact, a lot of questions are coming to mind. So let me start with a couple though. I want to know, before COVID, before this whole lockdown, you were still like doing this for about 3 years. So tell me what was working for you at that time, even before lockdowns and stuff.
I think in the very beginning, it may have been kind of the novelty of it because not everybody was doing it. And one thing that really worked a lot for me in particular was consistency, which I still now recommend today for if you're just doing a one-off, then it doesn't really matter. But if you're going to do on any kind of repetitive basis, any kind of a series, it's really important to do it. It doesn't matter how often you do it. It doesn't matter the frequency. It could be every week. It could be every month. It could be every other week. But whatever it is, make it whatever it is, that thing. It's very important to be consistent about it. We decided we picked a Sunday time slot because we thought that's when everybody will be home. And we picked a time slot that would be across the country, would be reasonably convenient for people, which is why we called it Sunday Morning Live, because we were out in LA where I lived. We were doing it at 10 a.m. Now that I live in Nashville, it's noon. So it isn't really technically Sunday morning anymore, but we kept the name. But we did it every single Sunday. And the only time we've missed any shows in the past 4.5 years, we have done every Sunday, whether I was traveling or if I didn't feel well, or, it didn't matter. The only time we ever missed any shows was when at the end of 2018, in November of 2018, as some of my followers know, I had open heart surgery. And that was kind of a big deal. And that took me put me out of commission for a couple of months. So we missed some shows then. And I was very careful to wait until I was strong enough physically, and my lungs and my breathing and singing and so forth were strong enough to come back and do it, and be able to deliver a performance that I could be proud of. And with that one exception, we haven't missed a single show in a long time. So
Yeah.
Consistency is really key, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what about the performance side of it? So, I mean, I'll just be honest with you. I agree with you on the live stream thing that not everybody does it well, and that's okay. It's new. Everybody kind of just picked it up.
Well, it's the same with conventional performances. Not everybody does those well either.
Okay, good. This is kind of where I was going. This is kind of where I was going with that. I mean, certainly, reading your book, I mean, there were certainly a lot of things that I'm now, conscientious about in live performance. And yeah, I'm still working on it. But let's talk about that. How can you make a live stream performance work, either as a solo artist or as a band? How would you compare that or change that in a live setting?
First of all, thank you for mentioning my book. I know a lot of people aren't seeing this visually, but for those who are, there's my book.
Oh yeah.
It's called Performance Matters. And the biggest difference between, and there are some things that are similar. There are some things that don't change from one to the other. But the biggest difference between live performance, just fundamentally henceforth, if I say live performance, I mean in a venue.
Yeah.
Okay, with an audience sitting there. So I don't have to clarify that each time. The difference between that and a live stream is that you can't, in a live stream, you can neither see nor hear your audience. The only means they have of showing you any approval or disapproval or anything else is the chat stream that a lot of them have, where they can post comments, and you can read them, but you have to be careful about that, because that's an interruption of momentum, to stop and look at a monitor screen and read somebody's comments and respond to it. Mm-hmm. But in a live performance where they're sitting there in front of you, they're clapping, if you say something funny, they laugh. You can. There's a chapter I have in the book called Reading the Audience, which is all about, it's a lot more than just applause. It's about watching your audience and paying attention to them even before you walk on stage. If there's somebody else there before you, playing before you, look at how they're responding to them. And are they talking a lot? Are they fidgety? Are they getting up and moving around a lot? Are they making a lot of noise with eating and drinking? Are they yawning? God forbid. There's a whole lot of tools you can use besides just are they or are they not applauding. If you take those things into account and you play a song and maybe it gets a little bit of applause, and then you play another song and it gets a stronger applause. Why did the second one work better than the first one? Maybe the second one was more up-tempo. Maybe it was funnier. Maybe whatever, maybe it was a cover song as opposed to an original. Whatever, to kind of take note of these things as you go. And all of those things are possible in a live performance. They're not possible in a live stream. So you have to, if you have some experience performing live, you can carry that into a live stream. You can remember what works well and what works. Planning a set list, I think, is just as important, if not more important, in a live stream than it is in a conventional performance. And I think a lot of people overlook that. A lot of people think, well, I'm just sitting here in front of my iPhone or my camera, and I can just play a few songs, and it's much more laid back and much more relaxed and much more informal. I'm going to be chatting with the viewers with their comments and stuff. And so it's just a kind of an easy, laid back kind of thing. And all of that is true, but you still need to hold their attention and you still need to engage them. So if you do too many ballads in a row, or if you talk too much in between songs, All of these things can hurt you just as much in a live stream as they can in a regular live show. So when I do my weekly show, I have a set list planned out. You can always alter it if you need to. If somebody requests a song that seems appropriate and you feel like squeezing it in somewhere, you can do that. Or if the mood doesn't seem to be going where you thought it might, you can always make changes. But you should have, at the very least, you should have a set list planned out that's a starting point.
Sure. Okay, so let me ask a question, if you don't mind. So you mentioned—
Yeah, please.
No, that's fine. I wanted to ask before I forget it. One thing I notice about solo artists, people who, like yourself, can get up on a stage, whether it be within a coffee house or up on a stage in front of, hundreds of people, performers that seem to really do well in that environment, they're constantly interacting with the audience in between songs, sometimes even in the middle of a song, right? Their personality, it really is what draws people in. And especially, I think, in a setting like you're describing, which could be a restaurant or a smaller place where people are not really there. They might not be there to hear live entertainment, not top of their list. That happens to be something they like about that place, right? I feel like the guys and the gals who can interact with the audience and give them an experience, and it's all, again, about their personality and how they sell themselves. So tell me, how do you translate that in a live stream?
Well, that's one of the things that is more consistent between a live show and a live stream. The only difference being, again, that it's harder to read the audience. So it's hard to know what's working and what's not. But and one tip in that regard is to keep your comments, your patter, as we call it. I define patter as anything, any part of your performance that is not music. It could be making an announcement, but anything you say to the audience that is not actually part of playing or singing a song is patter. In a live stream, you want to keep it short and concise, which is that's an easier trap to fall into with a live stream because they are more relaxed, more informal. I've been falling into that trap in this interview. I've been kind of rambling on, but keep it short and concise and keep it entertaining. All that's common to both live shows and live streams. And don't reveal too much. I think it's important, as you said in your intro to this, the audience wants to get a little bit of you, the person, right? They want your personality. If you just do nothing but play songs and you don't talk to them, your background music, you might as well be a jukebox. Where it becomes entertaining and where you engage them and where you get them to, where you encourage them or inspire them to pay attention to you, is when you talk to them, but keep it short, little snippets. And one huge mistake that a lot of people make, both in live shows and in live streams, is talking too much about the song. A lot of people gravitate to talking about the next song they're going to play because that's the most, that's the low-hanging fruit. It's right there.
Sure.
And that's what they're doing. They're playing songs. So I'll tell you something about this next one. And up to a point, that's okay, but you don't want to tell people too much about what the song is about, or how or why you wrote it, or what it says, because then they don't need to hear the song. Then you've already given them everything, right? Yeah, right. So if you, an example that I use in my book, and I'll use it here, I have a song called "My Mother and Me," which is a tribute to my mother. And it's a tribute in general to mothers. And it's probably my second most requested song. It's on a couple of my records. And if I introduce it to an audience that most of whom are new, have not heard it before, usually I will say something like, this is a song about the only person I've ever known who truly gave me unconditional love. And then I go into the song, period. Short and concise, but I don't say, this is a song I wrote about my mother. She died years ago. She died of lung cancer. And before she died, I felt like it was really important to, that would be the kiss of death. short and concise and something to pique their interest. Maybe it can be a little humorous, maybe not. Maybe it can be serious.
Yeah.
If you're about to do a song about, you know, racism or war or something, you can make a serious comment. But again, don't launch into a speech. You know, just make your point concisely, quickly,
Yeah.
and show a little bit of yourself. Revealing some of who you are as a person, what your beliefs are, what your passions are, what you care about. Revealing that is more important than revealing what the song's about. And there are a whole lot of different ways to do that. But
Right. No, that was
there
really
you go.
interesting.
I finally gave you a more concise answer. I'm getting better at this.
Yeah, right on, right on. No, it's all good. Man, you know, I can't even say that, you know, we will run out of tape. I don't even give a damn. You know, this is, Zoom is going to have to cancel my account for us to get off this. Honestly. Okay. So, but a couple of things came to mind. One is, yeah, you said something really important. Just say enough to get people interested. Don't give it away. Don't give away the mystery of the song. Get them excited. Here's something else that I noted on a couple of platforms like Twitch and I think Facebook has this now. YouTube definitely has it, where if there's a live stream performance going on, there's also a live chat happening. So sometimes all the people that are on that are able to like chat with each other and post a comment and say, hey, great job, and this and that. I've noted people who have kind of figured out this live stream thing don't spend a lot of time going, oh, hey, yeah, and reading people's comments and taking their eyes away from, you know, the camera and to the side of the screen and reading the comments and saying, oh, yeah, that's funny you said that. The people who are kind of good at it, they'll like somehow they'll just shift their eyes to this side of the screen for just a second, and whatever name comes up on there, doesn't matter if they know them or not, they just say, hey, John, hey, Vinay, and then they go back, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's perfect. And not everybody has the same budget for equipment, but if you can have a fairly large monitor, that helps, because you can have, it's easier to read at a glance. But it's very important. Another thing I see people do a lot with live streams is, and I myself made this mistake once or twice earlier on. I don't do it anymore. You turn on the camera, you're ready to go. You click on whatever platform you're on, whether it's, you know, Stream or Zoom or whatever it might be. You click on the thing and it says you are now live. But there's almost always a delay. And in those first few moments, you don't know yet whether anybody's really there or not. And I see a lot of people just sitting there looking at the camera and looking at their monitor and kind of, you know, trying to see if anybody's saying anything. And well, I don't see too many comments yet. And, you know, if you're out there, let me know you're there, you know, say something. Maybe we'll just wait here another minute or two until some more people show up. If, you know, if you're sitting and you watch somebody do that, if it's not somebody you really already care about to begin with, you don't want to sit there and wait with them for some of their friends to show up. You're probably net surfing in the first place. You're gonna move on. So turn on the camera. The thing says you're live, and go. Say hello, welcome. You know, my name is whatever it is. Here's my first song, and dive right into it. And if people miss the very beginning of it, so what? They can, you know, if it stays online somewhere, they can watch it later. If not, they'll just have to watch the rest of it. It's
just like doing a gig. You start on time. You don't wait and say, well, let's get some more people in here to give me more applause, right? You know?
Exactly. If there's only 20 people in a place that holds 100, you don't want to make those 20 people sit there. You know, well, you know, another 15 minutes, I bet we'll have 40 people here.
Right.
You know, maybe not. Maybe you'll only have 10.
Right.
And yes, to follow up on your point, the same thing applies with reading comments. Just a quick glance, and don't do it too often. I've seen some live streams where people stop in between every song. Mm-hmm. And who said something about that one? You know,
yeah,
that's a terrible mistake. Just do it like you would do any other show. Just move on and acknowledge people. Yes, by glancing at the comments once or twice during the show. If somebody says something that relates to something you just did, fine, mention it. If an old friend of yours shows up and you just happen to see it, glancing at them, like you said, just shifting your eyes for a second. Oh, Marianne's here. Hi, Marianne. And then move on. Let that be the end of it.
Right.
Don't get into it. Marianne, I haven't seen you in 3 years. How have you been? Are you still living in Minnesota?
Right.
Don't go there.
Right. Okay, so let's switch to a little bit of the technical aspects of it. So not everybody is going to, let's just say you're not going to get the best quality audio out there. The video is going to be acceptable. Even the free stuff like Zoom is good enough. But can you do anything? Can you suggest anything that, in lieu of having the best audio, can you compensate?
Well, yeah, I
in
can
some
give
way?
you, I mean, there's a whole range. I can give you, I can kind of give you best and worst.
Yeah.
The lowest rung on the ladder that still works. And by the way, in Zoom, we've been kind of beaten up on Zoom, but even in Zoom, there are audio settings. If you turn off some of the default settings, there's a whole lot of compression built into Zoom and some of the other platforms that are like Zoom, because it's designed for conversation, and it's designed, their default settings are designed to filter out background noise. So if you're playing a guitar and trying to sing over it and it hits that default setting, it's going to think your guitar is background noise, and it's going to try to filter it out. So if you disable some of those default settings, you're already a step ahead. But the same thing is true in StreamYard. They have in their instructions, in their introductory thing, they say most musicians use this setting. And there's a reason for that. But okay, at the low end of the spectrum, you can get away with it. When we first started doing my live stream, we did it this way, and I've had guests on my show who have occasionally done it this way. I recommend against it, but some have done it and made it work. You can just have a smartphone, an iPhone or an Android or whatever, with a built-in microphone and a built-in camera, and just have that in front of you. Either have someone hold it or put it on a tripod or whatever, and just do your show. It's a fixed shot, kind of like this is that we're doing here, but it works. And the microphone on an iPhone is actually not that terrible. The iPhone does have a lot of compression built in, so you do have that problem still. But if you play around a little bit with your placement, and modulate your volume and so forth, you can make it work. It's not the optimum quality, and if you're going to do it on an ongoing basis, you should try and scrape up a little money and save. And as you said, there are some webcams. Logitech makes some really good webcams that you can buy for like $50 or less, $30, that are actually pretty good visual quality. And some of them, I think the $50, $60 ones, some of them now have stereo microphones in them that are a lot better than just a standard mic that's built into a computer. If you want to, I recommend using an external microphone, a separate microphone, like you're doing, and like I'm doing. Mine is not in the picture, but of course, if you're going through some kind of internet connection, typically some kind of computer or laptop or something, then whatever microphone and camera you're using have to have USB connections. So you can't just take, if you're used to playing on stage with an SM58 and singing into that, it has an XLR output. You can't just plug that into your computer. That requires an interface. But before you spend a bunch of money on an interface, I'm not using an interface right now. This mic that I'm using, it's about a $300 mic. It's made by Apogee. It's called the Apogee Hype Mic. There are cheaper ones out there. The company Blue, which is famous for making a lot of really good studio microphones, they have a line, a series that they call Yeti, YETI. I actually have one on order. It's a very good mic. It's a large diaphragm mic, has adjustable switchable settings for, cardioid or stereo or omnidirectional. And they have USB connections, so you can plug them right into a computer. It's a nice, fat, warm sounding microphone. And those are the ones that are strictly USB, I think are around $150, which is not a ridiculous amount of money. So there is equipment out there that's fairly inexpensive. The the Yeti mic that I have on order is what they call the Pro model, which it has both. It has a USB output and it has an XLR output, so it can be used with conventional studio equipment as well. But for the average person who's just doing live streams now and then, that's you probably don't need to go to that extreme. Interfaces. The advantage to interfaces, you can get a 4-channel interface or more, and now you can use whatever equipment you're used to using on stage. You can use your SM58. You can plug in your guitar with your 1/4-inch foam plug or whatever it might be, and then you can plug the interface into your computer. The interface is a device that goes in between your source, your microphone, your camera, and the computer. And there are some decent interfaces that you can get for around $200 or $300. You can spend, thousands on them. Sure. if you want to go right to the top of the line. But there are some pretty good ones. Focusrite makes some in the few $100 range.
Yeah.
And then you can get more complicated from there. You can build it up. The other extreme, the high-end extreme, would be to use actual video cameras that have zoom and various other features built in. You maybe have somebody hold it and do pan and tilt and so forth, so you can have much more interesting camera angles. You can use multiple cameras, and there's ways of switching them. And there are interfaces that will handle multiple cameras and multiple microphone inputs. And you can get as complicated as you want, and you can spend thousands of dollars on it.
Yeah.
And obviously, the better the quality, the better the quality. What can I say?
Sure.
You can make it almost like a TV show. But it's not necessary to do that to have a successful live stream.
Right. Okay, so we talked about a couple of not too expensive ways to get a decent audio out of your live stream. But single fixed camera is not cutting it, especially with a band. You got to be able to do a little bit something extra, right? What do you think about that?
Okay, here again, the best solution would be to have a couple of different cameras and have somebody switching it, or but now you're getting into almost having a crew. The median answer for that, the intermediate answer, is to have one person holding a camera handheld who can change the angle from, if you're playing with a band, they can switch from one person to another, one band member to another, and they can get closer and further away. They can zoom in and out. And that's really not that hard to do. Hillary and I have done that in the past, and we don't always do it. Hillary has a lot of hats to wear because she also helps me with the live streaming. So, she watches comments for me, and she puts banners up on the screen for me and does a bunch of different things. So it gets kind of complicated, but one handheld camera is a huge improvement, and it makes the visual more interesting. The only problem, there's nothing really inherently wrong with just having a fixed camera, but it gets monotonous after a while. And the other thing you can do, I have a couple of friends who've done this. You can have a couple of cameras, and you can have them both on tripods, and you can have one angle and another angle, and you can set up, depending on the equipment you're using, you can set it up so you can switch from one camera to another with a foot switch or with a tap on a screen. It's very simple. So you can just neither camera moves, neither one is zooming in and out or panning or tilting or anything like that. But you can definitely you can make it more interesting by having just more than one shot and have the two switch back and forth. And so And that can be done relatively inexpensively. You can get a couple of those Logitech cameras I was talking about for, $100 roughly for two of them, and hook them up and just switch between them.
Yeah.
What I do, the Logitech camera, the little tiny Logitech cameras are designed to sit on a computer, on a laptop or something, but I found that you can put them on a mic stand. You can just take a regular clip that holds a microphone and just slip the little thing in the slot there, and you can make it sit on a mic stand. If it's a little wobbly, put a little tape around it to hold it steady, and you're good to go.
Well, and can I add one thing? Just like we were saying before, treat it as a gig. Play to the camera just as if you were playing to the audience, right? Don't be looking at your guitar, or don't be looking into the back room or whatever.
Right. No, that's very important. And there's actually in my book, there's a chapter on playing to the camera, and that's another one of the differences. If you're doing a live show for an audience and there are cameras there, the best approach usually 90% of the time, 95% of the time, is to ignore the cameras and play to your audience and just let the camera be a fly on the wall and observe you doing what you do. And every now and then you can glance at the camera for a second, but for the most part, you want to play to your audience. In a live stream, it's different because the camera is your audience. So you don't want to stare at the camera all the time, but you want to play to it more than you would if it was in a live situation. You would treat it as if the camera was a friend of yours sitting there watching you play.
Yeah.
And play to them.
Yeah. Well, that's a great analogy. Well, I mean, we covered a lot of really great stuff. I almost don't want to go too much deeper into it because I want you to be able to, build the mystery and the demand for your book. And so
well, I appreciate that. I am going to be relaunching the book because the world kind of stopped turning for a year, with this pandemic. And when the pandemic hit, I was traveling around to colleges and stuff, and I was doing concerts, but I was also doing performance seminars, and I was doing, sessions on the book, and I was teaching classes and performance and workshops, and I'm looking forward to all of that returning. But everything, I had some of those college seminars and workshops booked, and that all fell off. And so, like everything else, the activity with the book has kind of diminished as well. So I am planning on relaunching it this either late spring or early summer. It will be an updated version, which will include a chapter on live streams. And again, the book is called Performance Matters, and it's available now through Amazon, and will continue to be.
Yeah.
And so there you go.
Yeah. So you heard it all here from the man himself. And yes, definitely, I will include the link to purchase the book in the description of the podcast and then on YouTube, so everybody will have access to that link. Anything else you want to leave us with, John, before I let you go this evening?
Well, if I may, I'd like to plug my Facebook Live show.
Absolutely.
Since that's we've been talking about live streams, and like so many artists now, that's the only outlet I have for a while. As I've been saying, I'm looking forward to returning to on-stage performances this spring and summer, and hopefully some traveling too. But in the meantime, if you would like to hear any of my music and see if I actually know what the hell I'm talking about, I do have a live stream show that I do every Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, noon Central time here in Nashville, and 1 p.m. on the East Coast. It's called Sunday Morning Live with John M. It is on my Facebook page, which is simply facebook.com/John M Music, 2 M's there, John M Music. And that's my page, and just go there at noon Central time, Sunday Morning Live with John M on Facebook Live. And thank you for letting me squeeze that in there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And thank you for making time. And if you don't mind, we should do this again in another 3, 6 months when
I
just
would
as
love.
things are starting to open up again. I want to get a pulse from people like you who are, really involved in the industry and talk to a lot of people and can kind of predict the future. So let's do that.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, by all means, have me back and we'll see if, if any of my prophecies came true.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, John.
Thanks a
Thanks very
lot.
much.
David.
Yeah.
Great.
Appreciate it. Have a great one.
You too. I'm just going to sing the song. I don't want anybody here to take this song personally. How would you like to drive through Kansas? Help me sing this song. How would you like to drive through Kansas? Come along. Yeah. Well, maybe Dorothy's tornado will take us to the land of Oz. Munchkin Land is more exciting than Kansas ever was. How would you like to drive through Kansas with me? Help me sing this song. How would you like to drive through Kansas? Come along. Come see where the livestock feed. Come see the amber waves of green. Come and keep me company. If I go alone, I'll go insane. How would you like to drive through Kansas with me? Help me sing this song. How would you like to drive through Kansas? Come along. Well, you won't see trees or houses either. You might not even see a car. I'd like to drive through Kansas, see how plain the plain states are. How would you like to drive through Kansas with me?